What's up everyone, it's Sinistry, and today I am here to talk about one of my favorite categories of games, the roguelite. When it comes to games, I think that roguelites tend to be really underappreciated as a whole category. I think that individual games tend to be highly appreciated, but people don't always make the connection that there is a single common factor between all of these different games that really makes them so enjoyable to play over and over again. Now throughout this video, I'm just going to be referring to any roguelike or any roguelite as a roguelite, just purely because I think that it's too difficult to kind of go back and forth and it'll be too confusing. So just for the sake of it, we're calling them all roguelites. Also, I just tend to play more roguelites anyway, so for the sake of the games that I'm going to be bringing up in this video, they probably fall under that category more often than not. But with that being said, let's jump into all of the reasons why I think roguelites are one of the best categories in all of gaming. First of all, roguelites are very easy to pick up, but they are extremely difficult to master. If you've ever played a roguelite, you know that the mechanics are super easy to pick up. So for example, in The Binding of Isaac, you just shoot out tears while avoiding enemies and environmental hazards. Another great example is Slay the Spire, which is a deck builder, and it's pretty simple. You just collect attack and defense cards that help you counter your enemy's attacks and defense. Although these games are really simple to pick up and understand the basic mechanics of, they are very, very difficult to master, especially if you're looking to 100% them. A good example of this is Crypt of the Necrodancer. Not only do you unlock more and more difficult characters as you complete the game with some of the easier characters, but you also unlock tons of different game modes, which make it super difficult. So for example, there's a game mode where you have to play as every single character, and you have to make it through all of the different dungeon floors with every single character in a row, and if you lose at all, your run ends. It's incredibly difficult, and very, very few people ever beat these modes, let alone 100% these games at all. Even though these challenges may sound ridiculously difficult and may kind of put off some people, you actually do tend to have incremental success with these kinds of games, and I can tell you for a fact that no other game has given me the level of satisfaction the way any roguelite has when I have defeated a very difficult boss or a challenge or unlocked a new character I've been trying to unlock, just because they are so difficult and sometimes it can take months or years to beat a particular challenge. So when you do, it just feels so satisfying. So as you can imagine, as you're playing these games, you continue to play them over and over and over again as you try to beat these challenges and unlock new modes and new characters and new items and all of these different things. And that leads me to my second point, which is these games are crazy replayable. As mentioned, roguelites tend to introduce new characters and new items and modes and levels and all kinds of different things that just add a lot of spice and a lot of flavor to your gameplay. So every single time you play, you don't know what you're going to get. You may get a randomly generated dungeon, you may find a secret level that only shows up 0.01% of the time, or get a super OP weapon and just wipe out everything on a single run. It really is up to chance, and that's one of the reasons why these games are crazy replayable and just make you want to play over and over again. Even though a lot of these items tend to make gameplay easier, there are actually modes that tend to challenge you more or give you handicaps. So even though you might think, well, I would get tired of playing the same game over and over again, there kind of is always something new to do within these games. So even if you've been playing them for 5+ years, you really don't get tired of them the way that you do just about any other kind of game. Alternatively, if you need a little bit of help getting started in these games, they also tend to have easier characters or easier game modes that you can use to kind of build up your confidence and build up your gameplay abilities to get to those more difficult characters, so you don't really have to worry about being locked out of a game if you just aren't really great at it from the get-go. In addition, daily challenges are super common in these games, so they typically will randomly generate like a character for you to play as, or they may give you some stipulations, like maybe some difficulties or maybe some advantages or different things like that that will change up your gameplay. And then there are leaderboards, so you can go up against people all over the world. It's super fun. Again, it makes these games very fresh and keeps them really interesting to go back to day after day. Now, this might already sound like there's a ton in these games. I mean, you're unlocking sometimes thousands of items, sometimes even, dozens of challenges and modes and characters and all these different things. But interestingly, these games also tend to do something really cool with their core gameplay mechanics, and that is that they pack in tons of content into just a couple of gameplay mechanics by making them really unique. Another point I have to make sure to mention is that roguelites are so versatile in their gameplay itself. As I mentioned earlier, roguelites actually span across tons of different genres, so if you have a particular genre that you enjoy, you'll most likely find a roguelite within it. I'll give some examples just based off of games that I have specifically played and enjoyed, so if you like any of these genres or if you're interested, I would recommend any of these games. For deck builders, we have Inscription, Slay the Spire, and Cultist Simulator. Survival games, you have Don't Starve and of course Don't Starve Together. For shooters, you have The Binding of Isaac and Enter the Gungeon. For rhythm games, you have Crypt of the Necrodancer and Cadence of Hyrule, which, yes, is a Zelda Crypt of the Necrodancer spin-off. It is official, and it was actually, I believe, published by Nintendo, but it was at least developed directly with Nintendo. And I also mentioned Cult of the Lamb on my channel recently, but that is also a roguelite. It is a dungeon crawler and resource management kind of game. It's a little bit buggy. Maybe just wait a little bit to get that game, but it is a good game nonetheless. And those are just a few of the genres that have roguelites. Of course, I haven't played every roguelite that's ever existed, but I'm sure that if you like any other kind of game, you can definitely find a roguelite within that genre. Also, a lot of times these games kind of overlap genres and tend to create really new experiences for gamers. So I would say if you like kind of innovative gameplay and you're getting tired of maybe some stale games that keep coming out in your favorite genre or anything like that, then definitely check out roguelites because they tend to have really unique gameplay, and again, they hook you in so much. Another great factor of roguelites is whether you have just like 15 minutes to kill or you have like an entire afternoon where you just want to play games, you can find a roguelite that will fit whatever time span you have to play games. Tons of roguelites are really forgiving, and they will let you make either small incremental progress before saving, or they will actually let you save at any time. So for example, Crypt of the Necrodancer, you can just run a single floor if you want. You can get through it very quickly and then you can save, or you can play Don't Starve and save at any time. Because of this, you don't have to worry about the issue you run into with games like RPGs, where maybe you're doing like 3 hours of progress just to get wiped out by some random enemy. It can be super frustrating in those kinds of games when you don't have enough save points, but I found that roguelites tend to be super forgiving with this, which is really great if you don't have a lot of time to play games. As I kind of alluded to, these games are super easy for indie developers to make when compared to a lot of different games. So if you're not really looking to support AAA studios as much and you want to support more indie developers, definitely recommend checking out the roguelite genre on like Steam or wherever you tend to pick up games. The reason why roguelites are super easy for indie developers to produce is because the expectations are a lot lower than other genres of games. Really, the biggest component of a roguelite is that it has fun gameplay that hooks you in. If you don't have a fun gameplay, then you're not really going to have a successful roguelite. It doesn't matter if your graphics are beautiful or if your soundtrack is great. You can have really basic graphics and still have a really great roguelite. It's all about the actual gameplay and getting to unlock cool items or characters or having fun missions and modes, or just having daily challenges, things like that. So it's really focused on the gameplay. It tends to be a lot easier for them and within their scope, whereas like an MMO is just never gonna happen from an indie developer. The final awesome factor of roguelites is that they are so easy to add on to that oftentimes the developers or the community will actually add new gameplay, new DLC or characters or challenges, bosses, all these different things for years and years to come. You can see this in games like The Binding of Isaac, which has actually had several rounds of paid DLC over the years. And interestingly, a lot of these roguelite games actually have really strong communities online as well. So if you're a PC player, you can typically find mods for a lot of these games, and they can be really high quality. Even if there aren't mods, a lot of times these communities will have their own individual challenges where they might say like, take this kind of character and play on this specific seed, and then get these specific items and you can only use those for your whole run or things like that. And they just make it super, super fun to play. So I would definitely say if you're looking for a game that has a really strong community behind it, look into a roguelite, because guaranteed you're going to find an excellent community there that really cares about this game, including the developers. So that is everything I have to say about roguelites. I really have never met a roguelite that I didn't enjoy. They are all so fun. So if you need any recommendations, definitely go check out earlier my video where I mentioned a whole bunch of them. Or also leave your recommendations below if I didn't mention your favorite roguelite, because I am always looking for new ones to play. But also feel free to leave me a comment about what your favorite game genre is, or your favorite category of games or gameplay mechanics. I would really love to know if you like something other than roguelites, but also if you love roguelites, feel free to spread the love in the comments as well. If you like this kind of content, make sure to like and subscribe. It helps me to know that I can continue to produce this content for you. And thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.